Famous British people who passed away in 1921. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Sir Harry Barron. He was born in August 1847 and he died in March 1921. His age was 72 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He served as Governor of Tasmania and later of Western Australia. His tenure is remembered for fostering better relations between the colonies and Britain. E.W. Horner. He was born in June 1866 and he died in March 1921. His age was 54 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was pneumonia. He was a popular author best known for his crime stories about A.J. Raffles, the gentleman thief. He was also the brother-in-law of Arthur Conan Doyle. Sir Edmund Poy. He was born in September 1849 and he died in April 1921. His age was 71 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a decorated Royal Navy officer. Sir Edmund was instrumental in modernizing naval strategies during his service. His leadership was widely respected. Rosalind Howard, Countess of Carlisle. She was born in February 1845 and she died in August 1921. Her age was 76 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a prominent advocate for the temperance movement and a leader in various social reform causes. Her efforts greatly influenced the fight against alcoholism. Elizabeth Ann Finn. She was born in March 1825 and she died in January 1921. Her age was 95 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a British writer and the wife of James Finn, British consul in Jerusalem in Ottoman Palestine between 1846 and 1863. She and her daughter co-founded the Distressed Gentlefolks Aid Association, the predecessor of Elizabeth Finn Care. Louis Mountbatten, 1st Marquess of Milford Haven. He was born in May 1854 and he died in November 1921. His age was 67 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. He was a significant figure in naval reforms and a close relative of the British royal family. His efforts modernized naval logistics and strategy during his career. Arthur Mould. He was born in May 1863 and he died in April 1921. His age was 58 at the time of his death, and he died after a long illness. He was one of the most successful bowlers in English cricket, known for his remarkable speed. His career, however, faced controversy due to accusations of throwing. George Formby Sr. He was born in October 1875 and he died in February 1921. His age was 45 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was tuberculosis. He was a pioneering music hall comedian. George was known for his quick wit comic songs. He was the father of George Formby Jr., who followed his legacy in entertainment. Mary MacArthur. She was born in August 1880 and she died in January 1921. Her age was 40 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was cancer. She was a prominent suffragist and labor activist. She is best known for her work with the Women's Trade Union League and campaigns for better working conditions. Lord Herbert Lionel Henry Van Tempest. He was born in July 1862 and he died in January 1921. His age was 59 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was train collision. He was the director of Cambrian Railways and died in the Abermule train collision in January 1921. Sir Arthur Wilson. He was born in March 1842 and he died in May 1921. His age was 79 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a distinguished admiral in the Royal Navy, known for his contributions to modernizing naval warfare. He received the Victoria Cross for his heroism. Shaffield Hey. He was born in March 1871 and he died in February 1921. His age was 50 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was stroke. He was a skilled right-arm medium bowler and a key player of Yorkshire. He was celebrated for his exceptional performances in first-class cricket matches. Jos Alis. He was born in November 1866 and he died in January 1921. His age was 55 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was a horrific accident. He was an English tenor, celebrated for his interpretation of works by Edward Elgar. His sudden death in a railway accident shocked the music community. Charles Blackadder. He was born in September 1869 and he died in April 1921. His age was 52 at the time of his death, and the reasons for his death were liver cancer and heart failure. He was a British Army officer of the First World War. He commanded an Indian brigade on the Western Front in 1915. Sir Melville Macnaghten. He was born in June 1853 and he died in May 1921. His age was 68 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He served as an assistant commissioner in Scotland Yard and gained fame for his work on the Jack the Ripper case. He authored the influential Macnaghten Memorandum. Michael Llewellyn Davies. He was born in June 1900 and he died in May 1921. His age was 20 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was drowning. He was one of the Llewellyn Davies boys who inspired J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan. His tragic death, alongside a friend, deeply saddened those who knew him. Alfred Percy Sinet. He was born in January 1840 and he died in June 1921. His age was 80 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a leading figure in the Theosophical Society and a prolific writer. His works helped popularize Eastern philosophy in the West. Lady Randolph Churchill. She was born in January 1854 and she died in June 1921. Her age was 67 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was septicemia. She was a prominent socialite and the mother of Winston Churchill. Her influence on British society and politics was significant during her life. Harry Hawker. He was born in January 1889 and he died in July 1921. His age was 32 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was plane crash. He was an Australian aviation pioneer. He was the chief test pilot for Sopwith and was also involved in the design of many of their aircrafts. After the First World War, he co-founded Hawker Aircraft, the firm that would be later responsible for a long series of successful military aircrafts. Emily Davies. She was born in April 1830 and she died in July 1921. Her age was 91 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a trailblazer for the women's education and a co-founder of Girton College, Cambridge. She worked tirelessly for gender equality in education and society. Henry Austin Dobson. He was born in January 1840 and he died in September 1921. His age was 81 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a respected poet known for his works in the French, triad and ballad forms. His writings often reflected themes of nostalgia and classical inspiration. Hardin Grifford, 1st Earl of Halsbury. He was born in September 1823 and he died in December 1921. His age was 98 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a lawyer and politician, serving as Lord Chancellor 3 times. He is remembered for his contributions to British law, including Halsbury's Law of England. Alfred William Rich. He was born in March 1856 and he died in September 1921. His age was 65 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was renowned for his mastery of watercolor painting. His serene landscapes captured the beauty of English countryside scenes with remarkable detail and light. William Campbell. He was born in 1841 and he died in September 1921. His age was 80 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a Scottish-American politician who served as a member of the United States Senate and was instrumental in fostering better relations between Scotland and the United States through cultural diplomacy. Edward John Bevan. He was born in December 1856 and he died in October 1921. His age was 65 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a co-inventor of viscose rayon, an important textile fiber. His contributions to chemistry revolutionized the textile industry and modern clothing production. John Boyd Dunlop. He was born in February 1840 and he died in October 1921. His age was 81 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an inventor of the pneumatic tire, transforming transportation for improving comfort and efficiency in vehicles. His invention remains a cornerstone of modern mobility. George Ashlin. He was born in May 1837 and he died in December 1921. His age was 84 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a leading architect of his time, specializing in neo-Gothic styles. His designs include notable churches and public buildings across Ireland. Sir George Atkinson Wills. He was born in July 1847 and he died in December 1921. His age was 74 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He served in the Royal Navy and held significant commands throughout his career. He was known for his strategic acumen and leadership during critical naval operations. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.